Hi there. This puzzle is the appropriately named Nutcase. It's a cast Hanayama. It is a level 6. When it's new, it's very, very tight. It took me a couple of hours just to be able to free it up enough to open with any reliability. It is the two nuts that you can see turning, then the ends, and inside there is a little surprise. There's a little nut inside that really isn't there for anything except to distract you. I suppose if you were giving a gift, you could put a decently sized ring or another treat inside of it, and that would be a good way to keep, to get somebody to open a surprise gift, because you can see it, you just can't get to it unless you can get the puzzle open. So the first thing we want to do when we look at this puzzle is make sure that it's put together with the Hanayama trademarks to the inside of the nuts. Because if somebody has taken it apart and put it back together backwards, you're going to have to use the same basic solution. It'll be just different because you'll have to find where the threads line up. Now when I open and close here, you can see that this line right here, the threads are actually moving against each other. When I look at this one and open it and close it, this line here, the threads do not move. This is a single piece. This is a wide piece. Here is a break. Here is a break that doesn't move. So there are two wide pieces, and I'm just going to open this up so you can really see. There are two wide pieces. This is one, and this is one. If you look at this line here, it doesn't move when I wiggle. This one does move when I wiggle. This one does not. Here are the small pieces. This one, and this one all move when you wiggle. So these are the pieces that we're going to be working with. We're not going to be using these pieces. We're going to be using these three. So we'll find our three pieces that move when you wiggle, and we're going to take our nuts and move them out to the outside. We're going to start with this one because it's the first one. We have a solid piece, and an open piece. So I'm going to take the first spinning nut and line up the S with the first open space. The E and the E will be facing each other. I'm going to put the second S on the very next open one. And it happens that this is the lineup. If you put them on the ones that aren't the correct lineup, it won't open. If you center your S's on the wrong ones, just turn them. Make sure that the E's are together to the next set. It'll open right up. Then you'll unscrew very gently. You don't want to cross thread because then that'll ruin your puzzle. So unscrew to the end and unscrew to the end. Again, being careful not to cross thread your puzzle. Open, and now we'll look inside and see if I can get without the camera flash. You can see that this one has an open space. There's the wide space for this wide part here, and the narrow part has a narrow space. This is going to slide right on. This is how it's able to open. And on the other one, it does exactly the same thing. It has the narrow opening and the wide opening. Here and here. Which is why it's so important that your Hanayama pieces are facing in, because if they're not facing in, then your threads aren't going to line up properly. This one's going to be lined up in the wrong place. It will fit on this one, but it won't line up. If you don't line them up properly, your puzzle won't go back together. So to put it back together, we put Hanayama up and the bolt up. Slide the bolt onto the nut, and then we do the same thing with the other side, lining them up properly. Slip them together, and here's a really good example of how you can see the wide pieces and the narrow pieces, and how they do still have those lines on them. So it looks like it's all the same, but it's really not. So we're going to screw the puzzle together, being very careful not to cross thread. And you want to line everything up the same as you did to open it in order to close it. If you don't have it lined up properly, it's not going to go. So we'll just slip it over to the next one. And they do have to be lined up directly in the right places. Or it will not move. There it goes. So when you've got it lined up, drop your little nut in. And again, there is a ribbon there for a little treat. So we'll pop the nut in, slide it closed, being careful not to pinch the nut into here because then that'll prevent it from closing all the way. We'll need to turn and make sure that it's completely closed. That's Meep. She's my helper. And then we'll screw it closed. Again, being careful not to cross thread. But there it is. Nutcase, Hanayama, level 6.